Somewhere in the early 1980s, a teenager picks up a telephone, dials a number, and talks his way into a corporation's most guarded computer without touching a single lock. No mask, no crowbar, just a voice and a lie. And here's the part that should terrify you. It still works today. This is the story of Kevin Mitnick, the kid who proved that the most dangerous hacking tool ever invented isn't code, it's confidence. Because Mitnick didn't break into systems, he convinced people to open the door for him. We're going to walk through exactly how he did it, from blue boxes to a nationwide FBI manhunt. And stick around, because the wildest claim of all, the one about launching missiles by whistling into a payphone, is waiting at the end. Let's start where the magic really began. Long before Mitnick, there was a subculture called phone phreaking. In the 1970s, a generation of curious outsiders discovered that the entire telephone network responded to sound. According to Phil Lapsley's book Exploding the Phone, freaks learned that a single tone, 2,600 Hz, could unlock free long-distance calls. They built devices called blue boxes to mimic the phone company's own signals. The lesson young Kevin absorbed was simple and dangerous. The network was just a machine, and machines can be tricked. Now here's where it gets personal for a teenager with a phone and too much free time. Around 1979, Mitnick set his sights on Digital Equipment Corporation, one of the biggest computer makers on Earth. Their crown jewel was a development system nicknamed the ARC, holding the source code for their operating system. He didn't smash a window, he gathered dial-in numbers, and using nothing but phone calls, convinced insiders to grant him privileged access. A teenager, walking off with the blueprints of a corporate giant. And this is the moment his real weapon reveals itself, because Mitnick's genius was never really about computers, it was about people. Picture this playbook. First, he'd do reconnaissance, learning employee names, internal jargon, and how the company talked to itself. Then, he'd invent a believable persona, maybe a field support tech or someone from an internal department. Then, he'd drop real names and real memo references to sound legitimate. And finally, the ask. Reset this password, trace this call, enable this forwarding. According to his own memoir, Ghost in the Wires, a single phone call to the right person could yield an account reset or a full password. Think about that. Your company can spend millions on firewalls, and one polite phone call walks right past all of it. Which brings us to the trick that makes cybersecurity experts wince to this day. Mitnick didn't just fool office workers, he manipulated the phone system itself. Working against Pacific Bell, he understood that telephone switches had powerful internal features: talk and monitor functions, trace queries, administrative numbers hidden from the public. So, according to his memoir, he'd create an unused internal number, the kind starting with 811, then forward it to a cloned cell phone. Then he'd call a real Pacific Bell developer, using a credible pretext and genuine internal names, and simply ask them to run a trace. The call looked internal, trusted, harmless, and it handed him the keys. He wasn't hacking the phone, he was hacking the humans who ran it. Let me stop you right here because this is the part that actually matters to you. You probably think this is ancient history, a story about payphones and floppy disks. It isn't. According to the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report from 2024, a majority of breaches still involve the human element. Phishing, pretexting, someone getting talked into clicking or telling. Decades later, we've upgraded every piece of technology except the one Mitnick actually exploited. Us. Which is exactly why he became the most wanted hacker on the planet. By the early 1990s, after a probation violation, Mitnick went on the run. And he ran like a ghost. He used cloned cell phones and routing tricks to scatter his location across the country while continuing to break into company systems. The FBI couldn't pin him down, until he made the mistake of targeting the wrong person. A security specialist named Tsutomu Shimomura, whose own systems were reportedly attacked, teamed up with the FBI. On February 15, 1995, in Raleigh, North Carolina, the manhunt ended. Mitnick was arrested, and the media absolutely lost its mind. This is where fact and fantasy blur, so let's be honest about it. In 1999, Mitnick pleaded guilty to several federal counts and was sentenced to 46 months, accounting for time already served. Those are the facts. But the legend grew far bigger. And here is the loop I promised you. Prosecutors and press repeated a claim so absurd it became infamous. That Mitnick could launch nuclear missiles by whistling the right tones into a payphone. Yes, really. That was said out loud by serious people. And no, it was never true. Mitnick himself called it ridiculous, and no credible evidence ever supported it. The same goes for the popular myth that he hacked the Pentagon or NORAD, claims he denied in his own memoir. So, the teenager who supposedly hacked the Pentagon with a phone call? That headline is mostly myth. But the truth underneath it is scarier than the fiction. Because he didn't need to whistle at missiles. He just needed to call you, sound like your coworker, and ask nicely. Mitnick eventually flipped his story completely, becoming a celebrated security consultant and author, teaching the world to defend against the very tricks he perfected. And that's the real lesson here. We keep building taller walls when the intruder was always just going to knock on the front door and be invited in. The greatest security system on Earth still has one unpatchable flaw, and it's the person reading this. If this rewired how you think about hacking, go watch our video on the phone freaks who started it all. Because trust me, the rabbit hole goes so much deeper.